4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Grande Prairie City Council meeting for Monday, June 1st. We'll start our council meeting as we always do with our national anthem.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land, glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you to the National Film Board of Canada for the video, and to an alumni of our very own Grande Prairie Boys Choir for the audio of our national anthem. That'll kick off our council meeting in style, and we'll move on to the adoption of the previous council meeting minutes. I have a motion for that set of minutes. Councillor Minhas.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I move the council adopt the minutes of the City Grande Prairie meeting held on Tuesday in May 19, 2020 as presented.
Thanks, Councillor Minhas. Are there any errors or omissions in that set of minutes before we adopt them? Anything we need to correct? Not seeing any, then I will call for the vote. All those in favor? Thank you. And are there any opposed? There are none opposed among the council members in attendance. And so we'll move on to the adoption of the council agenda. Councillor O'Toole. You're just muted there, Councillor O'Toole.
Yes, I'm not sure if there's any additions, but I would move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. I don't see any additions, any other discussion or debate. Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the agenda as recommended? Thank you. And Councillor Clayton, I think that was unanimous. This brings us to the open delegation portion of our agenda. Even though council is meeting virtually, we do still have real opportunities for anybody to participate in a council meeting should they wish. We have a couple of opportunities to do that by letting our administration know ahead of time, and you have an opportunity to attend digitally by dialing in. And have we had anybody let us know that they wish to dial in to today's meeting? Mr. Karwaszewski?
Thank you, Mayor Given. We have no requests for delegations for this meeting for 3 o'clock.
Okay, and do we have anybody that's attended at City Hall to attend in person?
And I will ask Shane to respond.
No, Mayor Given, there's no one at City Hall to attend.
Okay, thank you. Well, we'll just remind the public, you know, that if you're watching this video recording at some later date, that while we have transitioned to these electronic means, we do still offer the opportunity for the public to attend these meetings. They are being both streamed at the time that they're happening, they are archived, and the public are always welcome to attend. All the information about how to do so or to make those arrangements would be on the City of Grande Prairie's website. Okay, so since we have no delegations today, we'll move through. We also had no items of unfinished business or reports. I think that takes us into our committee business, starting, Councillor Bressie, were you our Infrastructure and Economic Development Committee meeting?
Yes, I was. So I would move that Council adopt the minutes of the Infrastructure and Economic Development Committee meeting held Tuesday, May 26, 2020, as presented.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Bressie. Are there any errors or omissions or things that need to be changed in that set of minutes, Council? Seeing nothing, then I will call for the vote. All in favor of adopting those minutes? Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Councillor Minhas was in favor. That's unanimous. Thank you. Councillor Bressie, anything you want to highlight from that meeting?
Great, thank you. I've got no motions to bring forward from it, but just some updates for council was from our director service update. We heard that asphalt plants are now open, which means we get to start doing some serious road work. So I know many in our community will really appreciate that. And then just looping back with council on a couple pieces of business, there was conversation about cannabis reporting requirements. And we heard from our administration that the reporting requirements we have in place in our bylaws are quite arduous for retailers. There's no good way for them to collect the information, and it wasn't too clear what information they were supposed to collect, mostly because AGLC changed some of the requirements since the time we instituted that requirement. And therefore, committee directed administration to discontinue requesting sales information from cannabis retailers. And at a future council meeting, administration will be bringing updates to our business licensing bylaw that will kind of make that more official and that direction reflected in our bylaws should council choose to pass those amendments. And then the one other thing that I'll loop back from last council meeting was last council we approved some land to be rezoned to rural industrial, and there was a question of whether or not that had ever happened in the city before, and we had confirmation in a verbal update at committee meeting that last Monday or 2 Mondays ago was indeed the first time that council approved that zoning here in the city of Grande Prairie. So it's something new that we're learning how to do in the city.
Great. Thanks very much, Councillor Presley. Thanks for the update. And that'll take us to 8.2. And I think Councillor Friesen, you were up with the community services meeting?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Mayor Given. So I would like to move that council accept the minutes of the community service meeting held Tuesday, May 26th.
Thanks, Councillor Friesen. Any discussion or debate on that set of minutes? Anything we need to tidy up before we adopt them formally? I don't see anybody raising anything, so I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Thank you. That motion carries unanimously. Councillor Friesen, anything you'd like to highlight?
Well, thank you. I would like to highlight a few things because community services is something we've all been missing a great deal during this COVID event that we're going through. So, some boring stuff. Already our remote lawnmower is up and running and doing well. He came out of his winter storage quite ready to do some good work for us, and it appears he is. We also had phase 2 of GP Grows. About 1,900 packages were distributed. Okay, now the really, really fun stuff about things that are reopening. The Montrose Cultural Center and the Art Gallery are on track to open tomorrow. So we can start heading back to a few of our beloved places in the community. And the Art Gallery and Revolution Place are partnering to bring The Curve, which is an exhibit showcasing from all genres, art, music, written submissions of the Curve. So whatever, for artists in the community, whatever the Curve has meant for you in the last couple of months, bring forward a submission. They'll be accepted starting June 2nd, and then the exhibit will begin on June 9th. A couple of other openings. We have the dog parks that opened, and the outdoor recreation sort of opened up in the last couple of weeks. League play is not yet permitted, and we do know that now our playgrounds are opening up effective today. Wash your kids' hands. Make sure that you've got sanitizer when you're along there with them, and make sure that they are staying very safe and keeping their distance on the playground equipment. So that's important stuff. And summer camp registration was anticipated to be up today, but I haven't seen it on the city website yet, so we can look for that pretty soon as well. And we had Mr. Phillips from the city gave us a little presentation on what some lighting might look like on our sundial over at Center 2000. So we're going to kind of have a look at whether we can do some special lighting on that. You know how cities have light to highlight events or causes, or you know, for instance, right now we just started Pride Month, so that would be something that potentially we could highlight the sundial with some special lighting. So that was it. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Okay. Thanks very much, Councillor Friesen. And that'll take us to Corporate Services Committee meeting and Councilor Minhas.
Thank you, Mayor Bill Given, and let's go to the, I move the council adopt the minutes of the Cooperative Services Committee meeting held on Tuesday, May 26, 2020 as presented.
Okay. Thanks, Councilor Minhas. Any discussion or debate on that set of minutes? Anybody? Then if there is none, then I'll call for the vote to adopt them. All in favor? Thank you. That motion carries unanimously. Go ahead, Councilor Minhas.
Yes, I move the 8.3.1 bylaw C 1422 establishment of the board and committees. I move the council give the first reading to the bylaw C 1422 being a board and committees bylaw.
Okay. Thanks very much, Councilor Minhas. So a motion for first reading. I'll call for the vote on first reading. All in favor? Thank you. That motion carries unanimously. I'll just ask council members to make sure that you leave your hands up long enough that administration can check all the little boxes so that we get that. Councilor Minhas, go ahead. Continue with second reading, please.
I'll give the second reading to bylaw C 1422.
Okay, thanks very much, Councilor Minhas. So the motion for second reading, this is open for discussion and debate. Is there anyone with discussion and debate on this bylaw? Seeing none, I guess I should say that that committee meeting, I think I was not able to attend for this portion. I did have some difficulties. Can somebody refresh me on the transition plan for some of the committees that will be disbanded as a result of adopting this bylaw? I could direct that to Ms. Cajolet, perhaps, thinking about pursuit of excellence and arts development in particular. Ms. Cajolet, are you there? Or anybody that was at the committee meeting, by all means, if that was a topic of discussion, I'd just like to hear how it came out, because my understanding is that those committees will end at the end of this year. Councillor O'Toole, I see your hand.
Yeah, thank you much, Mayor Given. There was that concern at the meeting, and our director, Arlen Miller, had suggested that we have another meeting later on to discuss those two for sure and how we would move forward. Administration had some ideas that, and council also had some ideas, and they were going to try and work together and come up with a game plan. So it's pretty vague at this point in time, but we will be revisiting these two for sure. I think there was one more I can't think of right now, but those two for sure. Arts development was one, pursuit of excellence, and I'm not sure of the other ones.
Okay. Councillor Clayton?
Thanks, Mayor Given. I'm just trying to get through my notes from the meeting, but there was one topic of discussion under the analysis, that I had some concern with, and I don't know if now's the time to try an amendment, or yeah, I'm just looking for some guidance maybe on this.
Well, yeah, so on any bylaw, second reading is where you would be the opportunity to propose an amendment.
Yeah, so hang on, I'm just reading my notes, sorry, from the committee meeting. I guess the concern that I had was in the analysis, and it addresses, you know, some very specific items there, and one of them being in an item number 3 under the analysis, which in this format, I'm trying to find out what page that's on. Hang on. Because, yeah, the analysis is, so the format is different than that was at committee level meeting, so it's not sort of laid out the same. The concern I have that was laid out in the committee level meeting is there was an analysis item point 3, which basically has that that the mayor at any time can strike a work task committee. My sort of concern on this point being that I think there should be some council discussion in this. And as you mentioned, Mayor, given you weren't there, and the discussion was not around any concern of current council or current mayor, but as this is a bylaw and we'll, have some length to it, hopefully, there could be opportunities in the future that maybe weren't in the best interest of all those concerned, when a mayor on his own could, or her own, could strike a work task committee. So I'm going to amend. I guess my concern is with the document that's currently here in council not being as descriptive as the one that was laid out at committee. Maybe I can ask Ms. Karbashewski to help me find where the analysis items were in the document as is in front of us.
Yeah, so Councillor Clayton, the entire bylaw is there, and the section under task force is items, it starts under items 2.5 to 2.8 in the actual bylaw. Okay. It's on page 4 of the bylaw. Great, thank you.
The amendment being that council, the mayor or council may establish the task committee. So that would be the amendment. And
so yeah, Councilor Clayton, right now, item 2.5, which I think is what you're referencing, it says the mayor, comma, or upon recommendation by the mayor, council may establish by resolution.
Right. And so in 2.5, though, the mayor or upon recommendation of the mayor, council may establish by resolution a task force. I guess work with me here on what that looks like. Recommendation for the mayor, but the mayor by resolution. So the resolution would have to be approved by all of council, correct? So the mayor, leave out the comma and upon recommendation by the mayor, council may establish. So the mayor, by resolution, can establish a task force for the purpose of reviewing a specific issue or issues with specific timeline. So does this, as it's currently worded, mean that if the mayor, whoever that is at the time, chooses to establish a special task force, has to have resolution in front of council for this to happen? Is my question for administration or Ms. Karbashewski.
Go ahead, Arlene.
Go ahead, Arlene.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Upon review of section 2.5 and how the wording is laid out, it will not, in fact, allow a mayor to act independently of council. Resolution would be required in order to affect the recommendation.
Perfect. Then I'm good. I will take back my need to amend, so thank you.
Okay. So was there any other discussion on this? I appreciate that administration's done a couple of revisions after feedback from council. Were there any other discussion points on this item? And I just want to clarify, I appreciate Councillor O'Toole's sort of the update that there was some discussion about a transition with some of the committees that have delegated authority to award funds. And it sounds like that will be coming back to council about what that transition will look like. Is my understanding correct? I just would like a confirmation from somebody with administration that was there for that discussion, that was the direction that we were going to be going.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Sorry, technical difficulties earlier. Yes, that would be the intent, that the recommendation would come back to committee likely, or to council likely through committee.
Okay, thank you. If there wasn't anything else, then I'll just look to see if there's anybody that wanted to raise any other items before we get to the vote on second reading. Yep, Councillor Plott.
Thanks, Mayor Given. It's just maybe a housekeeping thing, just curious. I'm sure this will be moving. This can always be adjusted, but just on the Is that something that we could just happen at normal committee business after we've had a chat about that? Because I think that was something was going to come to committee, or is that something I try to amend now? But I'm fine with it, committee, if that's the process. I just wanted to clarify that there was going to be something from administration potentially brought forward. I'd like to amend that.
Sure. I don't know if anybody in administration has an opinion on that. Director Bork?
I have to go reread the motion, but my recollection is there is a motion for administration to bring a recommendation of how we would do that. That still would be on our plan, and that would come through the Infrastructure and Economic Development Committee. But that is still on our radar as a motion from council.
Okay, I appreciate that, Director Burke. I think that's good enough for me. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor O'Toole, did you have something further?
Yes, just before we could continue, I remember the other item. It was we had a member of the Hillside. No, that's not neighborhood association, and they wanted to have more input into the city. They seem to have lost what they feel some considerate and important ties with the city over this last year or two. And once again, Mr. Miller is going to bring that up when we discuss the other items. That was going to be a member or going to be on the agenda when we do have our meeting to discuss the funding sources and of the arts development and pursuit of excellence. So we'll be talking about those two, as well as the neighborhood associations and how we can get a relationship going back again and how they can be more involved, from what I understand.
Okay, I see, Councillor Friesen, I have you in the queue, but I also see Ms. Cajolet had something maybe on this point.
Hi, Mayor Given, thank you. That discussion has already been scheduled for the next strategic priorities meeting on June 17th. So administration will be bringing forward information related to neighborhood associations at that time.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Karaszewski?
Thank you, Mayor Given. Upon direction of the committee at the last committee meeting, administration was also directed to add or incorporate one member of the Community Advisory Committee, be an active member of a neighborhood association. So that amendment has been affected in the bylaw that's before you today.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Friesen?
Thank you, and this is exactly what I would like to address. For those of you who are at the committee meeting, you recall that I spoke in opposition to the addition, and I'd like to bring that up again as, so I'd like to actually suggest an amendment to this bylaw today, such that under item number 6, Community Advisory Committee, the one representative being an active member of a neighborhood association within the city is struck from the bylaw. So the membership would simply read membership to include 11 public members appointed by council, period.
Okay, so that's a specific amendment, which is obviously in order. So we'll call for discussion and debate on that proposed amendment. Any discussion or debate on the amendment? Yeah, if you'd like to speak to it to introduce it, Councillor Friesen. I
would. Thank you, Mayor Given. So as it stands right now, we have a number of fantastic neighborhood associations, but we did hear from Parkside Neighborhood Association that there is some disconnect with the city and they would like additional involvement. We will be hearing from administration some ways to get back in touch with our neighborhood associations in the coming weeks, and I look forward to that because they are fantastically important parts of our city as a whole. However, I do not believe that having a single representative of one neighborhood association on this advisory committee will bring the value that we hope it will. And in fact, to have the voice of our neighborhoods all have very different concerns, and to have a voice of only one neighborhood on this committee may bring forward concerns that are valid, certainly for that community, but not necessarily representative of the city as a whole. And I believe that the Community Advisory Committee is meant to advise the city on recreation and cultural projects, ongoing engagement activities, beautification, and community pride and events, which may impact individual communities, but that is not the focus of this particular committee. So as it stands, I don't believe that this is an important addition to that bylaw. So I'd like to see it struck.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Friesen. Any discussion or debate on Councillor Friesen's motion to reduce that sort of specific identification that a single member of the 11 must be a member of a neighborhood association? Any discussion or debate on that point? Councillor Palat and Councillor O'Toole.
Thanks, Mayor Given. We did discuss this lots, and I'm going to support it. And I know the intent is there. I would love to see us have a conversation about neighborhood associations in general. So I'm hoping that this will pass, and I would like to see us talk about a motion that we could come forward with on how we could have a conversation about whether this needs to be a committee or just a different structure. But rather than stick-handling trying to make this a committee today, I think we just amend this and try to reinstate something somewhere else, try to evidence for the conversation another way.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Platt. Councillor O'Toole, then Councillor Blackburn.
Yeah, I'm not going to support it. I said my reasons at the last meeting. I think that neighborhood associations are all talking to each other, or mostly talking to each other. And if they could support one individual to be the representative from the neighborhood associations, then I think that's the way to do it. Now, saying that, we are having a meeting and we're going to be discussing this soon. And I'm looking forward to what the recommendation is from administration on how we can incorporate neighborhood associations. So I won't be supporting it at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor O'Toole. Councillor Blackburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I will be supporting this amendment. I understand the need for there to be a better connection between the associations and the city, and I think that can be achieved through the work of administration and the active participation of each neighborhood association as they see fit. I think that if we require that one of the members of our advisory council be a representative of all the associations, then what we might be doing is setting up the need for them to build greater infrastructure where they would have an association of associations so that they could talk about common interests, concerns, and things that they would authorize a representative to bring to that advisory committee. I think it's kind of cumbersome, and I think that there are better ways that it can be dealt with. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor Blackburn. Were there any other people wishing to get in on this topic? Seeing none, then we'll call for the vote on Councillor Friesen's item after I go to her to close.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Councillor O'Toole, I appreciate what you're saying, but without a mechanism in place for the individual associations to formally come together and appoint someone who's going to be the representative on this advisory committee, I agree with Councillor Blackburn that may be quite cumbersome. And let me remind you that striking this does not preclude a representative of a neighborhood association from serving on this committee. So we're not saying that they're not allowed to be at the table. I just don't think that we have the mechanism right now to fairly have a single representative at the table in this named capacity. Thank you. So please let's support this amendment.
Okay, thanks for that close, Councillor Friesen. So we'll call for the vote on Councillor Friesen's motion to amend by striking the requirement for one member of the Community Advisory Committee to be a representative as an active member of a neighborhood association within the city. All those in favor of Councillor Friesen's amendment to strike that? Okay, and opposed? Okay, I see 2 opposed. Okay, so that motion does carry. So that motion is, the bylaw is amended. So we can go back to discussion and debate on second reading as amended. Were there any other further amendments or changes that people felt they needed to propose? Or any other discussion or debate before I call for the vote on second reading? Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote on second reading as amended. All those in favor of second reading? Okay, that motion carries unanimously. Councillor Minhas, back to you.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I can have the third reading of the bylaw C-1422 at this meeting.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Minhas. Any discussion or debate on third and final reading? I'll just say thank you to administration. This is a more formalized approach than the city's had to this variety of boards and committees in the past. I have no doubt that it will evolve over time, but I think that this is a good start. I think that we've done a good job, and I would expect that, that over time we will find ways to improve this approach, and there may be additions and changes that should be expected. This kind of document should move with the times and move with the city, and we shouldn't expect it to be a set it and forget it sort of approach. But thank you very much to administration for all the work on this. Councillor Blackburn?
Just a point of order, Mayor. We're voting on whether or not to have this.
Thank you. You caught me there. Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Blackburn, for catching me. Boy, you know, I thought I'd done that enough times that I would never get caught on it, but I sure did. So this is a motion to whether or not to have third and final reading tonight, to do all 30 readings in one council meeting. Is there any discussion or debate on that point? Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Thank you. That motion does carry unanimously. Councillor Minhas?
All right. I give the third reading to bylaw C-1422 being the board and committee bylaw.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Minhas. And I'll just say everything I said before. Is there any other discussion or debate? Seeing that, then I'll call for the vote on third and final reading. All in favor? Okay, thank you. That looks unanimous. That handles all the business for that item. Councillor Minhas, did you have anything else from your committee?
Yes, we got an 8.3.2 recommendation. Council direct to administration to provide the quarterly update on the council focus area of this council terms to the operated standing committees. Yeah.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Minhas. Any discussion or debate on this motion? The council focus areas are attached to the agenda package. And again, my apologies for not being at the committee meeting, but was there discussion for these being publicly posted anywhere so they're not buried in a council agenda? I see some folks nodding their heads. Councillor Frieden?
Yes, we did. I brought that up. It was important to me, and administration agreed that these be a document found on our website and not updated on the website, though, until we accept them.
That's great. Thanks very much. I don't see anybody else. Any other discussion? Councillor Bresson.
I'll definitely be supporting this. I just wanted to speak in support and say thanks to administration for their work on this in terms of, I think too often City Hall is a complete black box to residents where they have no idea what we're working on and what we're hoping to accomplish for the community. And I think this will go a long way to helping them, if they so desire, to get a good look at the work that council's focused on. So I think this is going to be a really good thing for our community, and I really appreciate the work that went into it.
Thanks very much, Councillor Bressy. Any other discussion or debate? Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote on the motion. All those in favor? Thank you. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And Councillor Minhas, anything else that you wanted to update us on from that meeting?
Yes, Mayor Given, I will have a couple of things. Assessment and taxation. Tax have been levied and the notes are being generated, and they are expected to be mailed next week with updated information. And the Finance and Update Committee on the Budget 2021 will be presented on June 9th, and a revised report will be coming up in June 23rd. Procurement meetings are being held schedule with the department reviewing outstanding 2020 capital projects and create a plan to completion. Administration is working on acquiring necessary PPI items for the city building reopen. So that's what I have today. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks very much, Councillor Minhas. And I think that brings us to our last committee meeting, and Councillor Clark.
There. Thanks, Mayor Given. I just recommend that Council adopt the Protectors of Social Services Committee meeting held on Tuesday, May 26th, as presented.
Thanks, Councillor Plott. Any errors or omissions, anything we need to correct before we adopt those minutes? Being done, then I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Councillor Plott, anything you want to highlight in that set of minutes?
Yes, thanks, Mayor Given. Our director, Manuel, was on some much-needed holiday time, so his acting director, Wendy Hughes, did his service verbal update on us. Did let us know that CSD is continuing to do their virtual coffees. They had 31 attendees on May 7th, and then they had 25 on May 25th. Still thinking they're having some really good dialogue with the not-for-profit agencies in Grande Prairie. It was also mentioned that we have our full-time bicycle patrol cops happening now, which I think has been good. I've had some positive feedback on that as well. And that the RCMP will be increasing their patrols for downtown, and they already have it. So that's, I know it's been something the community's been concerned about, but it was nice to hear that they are increasing the patrols. And with that, that's all, no business arise.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Plott. So that handles all of our committee business, and I think that takes us just to Councilmember Reports on our external agencies, boards, and commissions. I think we had 3 council members that had some. We'll start first with Councillor Clayton, and then Councillor Thies, and then Councillor Friesen. Councillor Clayton.
Thanks, Mayor Given. Just a brief update. Attended a Grande Prairie Regional Tourism Association meeting last week where we worked on the COVID campaign, the post-COVID campaign, which will basically be an opportunity to highlight tourism activities and within about a 200-kilometer radius. We understand that, you know, we don't want the whole world coming to Grande Prairie, and we don't want Grande Prairie traveling the whole world yet. However, we do think that there's an opportunity for people to, you know, with caution and with the right precautions, get out into the region and visit some of the amenities that we have to offer in a tourism as a local tourist. So stay tuned, and you'll see some of that sort of come to fruition in the next couple of weeks. But it was a great meeting, and as always, attended from destination marketing organizations, as well as the board for Grande Prairie Regional Tourism, as well as representatives, elected officials from across the region. So it was a great meeting and a great conversation. And I just wanted to thank Rebecca Lee from Economic Development, who continues to sit with me on that committee, you know, as a resource for myself and as a great resource for the region when we're providing that sort of context of what tourism can do for economic development. So that was my report. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Councillor Clayton. Councillor Thies.
All right, guys, hang on tight. I got four committee updates here, but I'll try to keep it brief. I know you don't believe me, but here we go. May 22nd, I met with Grand Spirit Foundation, the executive committee. We received updates on the happenings inside of our lodges and seniors' homes. Still nothing COVID related happening there, and we are moving towards opening the lodges, still keeping social distancing, and still making visits from family members scheduled and watched under. But that's a plan that's slowly unfolding. We also approved our business plan, and in our budget, we increased the top amount of our reserves, largely because we already were at topped out on our reserves after our recent deposits into our reserves. But seeing that we only have certain operational supports of $250,000 as their top end, considering it costs about $600,000 to $700,000 every quarter to sort of go through everything, we decided to increase that just in case something like COVID hit us again. So all of our reserves got increased, and that'll be going to the board for approval. We also started up maintenance again. It was slow going in the lodges and seniors' homes based because of coronavirus, but now we're back to fixing up the buildings as was the plan originally, and So yeah, looking forward to seeing those buildings upgraded as they need. And also it's Seniors Week. I know many members of council are delivering some seniors packages, loosely related to Grande Prairie Foundation, but just like to wish every senior who is watching on this program a happy Seniors Week, and council will be seeing you potentially at your doorstep if you signed up for a seniors care package. May 23rd, the entire board met via Zoom for Peace Library Systems. It was there that we officially hired our new CEO by board vote. We attended to some policies that needed some updating, and the good news front, we received our provincial grant as promised and in the full amount. So we don't have to dip into any of our reserves or investments. So that's a really good news. So happy to get that news from Ms. Duplessis. Also, May 26th and 27th, I had meetings with Nighthawk Ski Hill. And this was largely to do, well, mostly with the board, but our board meeting was largely dominated with the landslide that happened out at the Nighthawk recreational area. Now, the initial results coming back in and the geotechnical study isn't giving us the full overview, but it appears that there is a large fault line that runs across the entire hill. Now, you would think that that would mean future slides, but currently most of the hill is not impacted by this large fault, but we are monitoring that and setting up monitoring stations as well for any kind of land movement or whatnot. We're also getting a full geotechnical survey to see what the extent of the damage and repairs are going to be. We're hoping to get that back by August 1st. But in regards to next season, the chairlift, I believe, in the area that was affected, we managed to save everything except for the big poles, which rolled 60 feet down the hill as I updated council at our last meeting. But all the other infrastructure for the chairlifts are in good condition and can be reusable. But currently, if we are scheduled to reopen in the fall, we will be operating that side of the hill with the tow rope, more than likely, and no chairlift as long as we can move the dirt around. And there is no risk to any future slides, especially during ski season. Finally, the Downtown Association met on May 27th. Big discussion on getting people back to the core. A lot of good discussions on how business in the first week was going for people. Some businesses are reporting record sales, boom time, hitting their sales plus 50% from the last year. So there was a lot of discussion in and around all the business owners that, hey, let's keep telling people to promote their business, to work within AHS's guidelines, and hopefully this little boom will help us recover a little bit from the bust of the lockdown. So that was some very positive news. We also talked about some not so positive news, but on the good side front of it, not everybody was negative, and this is in regards to the Dave Bar population transitioning to Bose and other social disorder issues that are happening in the downtown core. I really thought that after our town hall meeting that I'd come to a meeting where everyone would be all fired up and angry. But in fact, a lot of people around the table, and John Kriska, especially from Better Than Fred's, seemed very supportive of the idea of moving people to Dave Bar and the Bose, the work of our enforcement services, as well as the engagement of the RCMP. Rave reviews for Kelly Kokesh's team, from Wendy Bosch to the Downtown Association, being very easy to work with, and also implementing solutions that she saw making a noticeable difference. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed and hope that people enter the core. We're also going to continue pushing our administration, city administration that is, to ensure that all concerns that were raised by businesses with transition of the population to the Bose Center can be addressed and mitigated. Moving forward until social distancing requirements are lifted for our shelter population. With that all being said, those are my 4 reports. Sorry for eating up little time.
That's okay. Thanks very much, Councillor Friesen, and then Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you, Mayor Given. So on Friday, I think that was May 29th, I attended a virtual meeting of the Intercity Forum on Social Policy, and we had been hoping back when we last met, we'd really been hoping that the Honourable Minister Luan would be able to attend, but we've now extended an invitation to him for our October 30th meeting. He is the Associate Minister of Mental Health and Addiction for Alberta. And so it was a shorter meeting than usual, but we did hear from a round table a lot of concerns about the understanding or lack thereof that the current provincial government has of FCSS, which is Family and Community Support Services. And as such, there seemed to have been perhaps some overlap. While we're all very grateful that we had the additional funding to meet some of the crises that we would be seeing in the social realm with COVID, we're very grateful for that. But there is some concern that because there's not maybe the understanding that there's a lot of overlap between HS and what FCSS is generally trying to do. And so out of the discussion, the request for a municipality to take a resolution to AUMA came, and I put up my hand, and we'll be working together with Angela Sutherland to develop with input that we'll get in writing by next week from all of the municipalities in the Intercity Forum. We'll get information, and then also with our communication at the city, we'll see if we can bring together a resolution that then we will ask for council to support. And I did this because I know that this council and this city has a lot of challenges in the social services realm, and I know that this council is very supportive of whatever best practices can be achieved here and through partnership with the province. And so we'll see what comes of that, but Angela and I will be working together on that over the coming weeks. And then we also just had an interesting short presentation from the City of Lloydminster on vaping. And if you go to YouTube, you can see a number of videos that their youth council did on vaping, and how they've handled it in that city is they're, for any tobacco product, any vendor selling tobacco products, there's an additional tax on them at the municipal level, which is kind of interesting and probably not, I don't know, but not necessarily something that we're interested in. But they also have not only bylaws regarding that, but also bylaws regarding how to, vaping in public and that sort of thing. And I know that as we look at our smoking bylaw, I think in the next year here, we're looking at it maybe in the fall. Were we meant to? Anyway, it rang a bell that we were looking at our smoking bylaw at some point. Anyway, that may be a city that we want to look to for some of their practices and policies. So that was the Intercity Forum on Social Policy on Friday. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Friesen. Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. Community Futures has a financial relief for local businesses. As of May 21st, 2020, small businesses in Grande Prairie region impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic can now access additional financial relief and recovery support. Community Futures Grande Prairie and region will begin offering tailored small business loans as part of the Government of Canada's Regional Relief and Recovery Fund. These particularly forgivable loans ensure that rural businesses that do not qualify for other federal business support programs receive help and support as a result of this crisis. This funding is part of the announced $95.7 million for the Community Futures Can West Network for rural and remote businesses in Western Canada that do not qualify for other federal business supporting programs such as the Canadian Emergency Business Account or the Business Credit Availability Program. Small and medium-sized businesses can apply for loans up to $40,000 with terms that could include no interest, accrual, or principal payments through December 31st, 2022. If 75% of the loan is repaid back by December 31st, 2022, the remainder of the loan is forgiven. And blended interest and insurance or interest payments beginning January 1st, 2023, and loans must be repaid by December 31st, 2025, with no payment penalties. And if you're interested in this sort of deal, you can call the office and talk to Holly Sorgan, and she will get you into the queue. I know that we've met virtually and approved a number of loans that people are needing to morph into something different, and they have that opportunity now to make some changes. So, yes, we are fairly busy in the office. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. I think that was all of our reports from external agencies, boards, and commissions, unless there was anything that we missed. I don't see anything. Then we'll go to Councilmember Roundtable, and we'll start with Councillor Bressie, since he's next to me on my screen. Councillor Bressie.
Great. I think the thing I'll highlight is I got to spend the morning doing something that was long overdue in my kids' opinion, and that was going to a couple playgrounds in the city. And the two things I'll highlight is, one, it was great to show up at those playgrounds and see the caution tape torn down, the deer poop removed, and them looking great and like they were ready for kids to play on, not like they were neglected over the last couple months. So I know throughout the community I saw park staff working on the playgrounds through the end of last week to make sure they're ready for our kids, and I really appreciate that little touch our littlest residents got. And so I want to highlight that, and also just highlighting that I really hope that our residents will take seriously washing their hands before and after going to the playgrounds, using the green space instead of the structure when they're really busy, doing their best to maintain that 2-meter separation from people that aren't in their household. And I know reading the stories, there's been other municipalities that have had to shut down playgrounds again, at least some of their bigger ones. I really hope we don't have to do that here in Grande Prairie. So I really hope that we'll take still take social distancing seriously, but right now I'm sure excited to finally have my kids out and playing again.
That was everything, Councillor Bressie. Then we'll go to Councillor Minhas.
Oh, thank you. Well, Mayor Given, I think Bressie said it. I walk into the park too, but that was one thing. The other good thing is Prime Minister announced today $2.2 billion to municipality, which is, my understanding the way it said was going to give us the gas tax for 2021 in June instead of giving the 2 portion they used to give before. So hopefully that'll help us, our instruction work more and creating a little bit more economically jobs here. So that was good news. Other than that, it was quiet. And when we're talking about the social distance, I see lots of people there going in good time, more than 15 people together, but they keep in distance, I guess, but it's not true. But that's what I see it. I feel bad about it, but you can't control that stuff. So that's about it.
Thanks, Councillor Minhas. Councillor Blackburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Council may recall that we received a presentation a while ago about the federal government's requirement to protect and recover caribou populations across the country. So apparently these requirements have been in place for about 10 years and not much has happened to make a difference at this point. So responsibility has been handed to the provinces to come up with a plan that would protect 65% of any defined caribou ranges. And we have one of those ranges in our area. It's called the Upper Smoky region. That range involves a great deal of industry in our area, including activity on the Montney and Duvernay plays, a number of forest management agreements, Aboriginal interests, tourism, and a lot of other industry. So there would be a huge economic impact if suddenly 65% of that area was inaccessible to industry for the benefit of caribou populations. So to meet the goals that have been handed to the province, Alberta has set up a number of task forces to look closely at possible solutions. And Marianne Chichak, who's the mayor of Whitecourt, heads up the task force for the Upper Smoky region. And because of our location and being sort of the municipal center that would be most directly affected by the economic impacts, we've been invited to provide some input to the task force. And Mayor Given and I have had one conversation with Mayor Chichak. I know that Bill has, through AUMA, and when Marianne Chichak was on the AUMA board, they've discussed this at previous times. But I've been brought into this to try to help with the gathering of information and the some input to the challenges that have been faced. So the immediate goal is to provide the right information on economic impacts to a consulting firm that will soon be conducting a socio-economic assessment that will be used by the provincial government in their development of a plan. And the task force has a target to provide a plan to the provincial government by the end of August this year. So I just wanted to let council know that this is something that has suddenly boiled to the surface again, and something that we're going to need to pay some attention to. And I'll try to keep you up to date on what we're learning and what we might be able to provide in the way of information to the task force as time goes on. It's early days for me. I'm still trying to catch up and to understand what it's all about. But I thought it would be useful for you to know that we are involved in some way. That's all I have, Mayor Given. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Councillor Blackburn. And Councillor Blackburn, thanks for taking on the point role on this. So obviously, the forestry industry is important to our local community, and this will have the potential to have a major impact on them. So thank you very much for taking the lead on this. Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. Just a heads up to everybody, you all knew about it, but we had a bit of a COVID-19 scare last week, and I wasn't able to go and leave the house until we got the results back of our testing. I got to tell you, AHS did a really good job. We went in, we had an appointment, we didn't have to get out of our vehicles. The paperwork was all done, questions were asked, and it was just a simple throat swab that took us maybe 30 seconds, and the whole time there was maybe about 10 minutes. And so that was really good, and I'm glad to say that we got negative results, so that's even better. We left the health unit, and we went over and hugged our grandchildren, which we've been having a really hard time not be able to do, so it brought a lot of joy to my wife and I. And today I was at the old folks' homes and was able to hand out some little gifts, and it was really good. And I got back early, and I got another bunch of stuff to hand out later today. And everybody was so happy because the sun was shining, there was someone to talk to, and they thought it was really neat the city was involved in this. So thanks very much. That's my report for this week.
Great. Thanks, Councillor O'Toole. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. Just a couple things. I had a lot of joy hanging out with different city administration, filming various projects. One, setting people up for phase 3 of the GP Grows program. So we did filming out at the Coca-Cola Center and did the planting of the main flower garden there as well. And then I got to go to Councillor Bressy's park, Avondale, and got to do some filming for the opening of playgrounds with my niece, my nephew, and my son. I figured teenager Jasper maybe wasn't the right person to be promoting the playgrounds open. He will play there, but usually we think kids. And Councillor Bressy joined me afterwards, so we had a brief interaction and a chit chat, and apparently he went to my end of town to do the same video shoot for the playground. So, no, a lot of meetings this week, a lot of other stuff, but truly I just want to talk about the joy of film, I guess, and that's what I did. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Thiessen. Councillor Friesen.
Oh, thank you. I was able also today to deliver some flower baskets to a couple of seniors facilities in the city, and that was wonderful to be able to do. And I just want to give a shout out to the workers in these facilities. I know my mom lives in one, and it's been exceptionally difficult to corral and wrangle the seniors to get them, all staying put, and it is for their safety, and I'm so appreciative of the extraordinary care that these folks are taking of the seniors in our city. To date, we haven't had any cases in seniors facilities, and that's so important because we know that the fatality rate for this particular virus increases exponentially in our senior populations. So, getting choked up. I, for one, am so grateful that even though I haven't been able to see my mom or give her a proper hug, I know that on the other side of this, thanks to that hard work, she'll be there for me to give lots of hugs to in the future. So that was an enjoyable morning. And last week, I went over and joined Councillor Minhas at his workspace there, which, as you know, is a nice big multi-desk workplace and all of that. And he and I attended virtually together a subdivision appeal board training. And the good news is we both passed and are ready to do that. But it was just really nice to be able to spend the day with a council colleague. I miss you all very much.
Thanks, Councillor Friesen. Councillor Platt?
Thanks, Mayor Gibbon. Probably the highlight was doing the video with the park reopening with my kids. It reminded me of just how little involvement there is with community outing, so it was nice to have them participating, and I'm excited about it. It was nice to drive by some parks today and see some kids out there, but do just want to keep encouraging people to just keep doing all the right things so that we don't have any more cases pop up and we can continue on this normalcy. But other than that, it's just nice week by week to have life go back to a little bit more normalcy for sure.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor Platt. Councillor Clayton.
Thanks, Mayor Gibbon. Yes, I was. It was really enjoyable to be part of the video process. My boys and I went to South Bear Creek and did some bikes and avoided a rainstorm, so that was great, and did some biking there. And I just, as echoing many people have said today, encourage our community to use common sense, follow the guidelines, and just be cautious with, as we get more and more out into the community. It's great to be more and more in the community, but continue to be safe. And saying that, I had an opportunity to have lunch with our MLA, Tracy Allard, and then the following day had lunch with our MP, Chris Workington, and it was great to have conversations with both of them on what, the impact they're seeing and dealing with on a day-to-day basis on a provincial and federal government level. So I really enjoyed to be able to sit down and have a conversation with them about, what they're seeing and what they see coming down the road. I also had a coffee meeting with Karma Garnscheid from Sport Connection and what that looks like as they get ready. Two purposes. They have their AGM coming up in the middle of June, but as well, as we get closer to phase 2 and phase 3, hopefully, what that looks like for sports, and as sport organizations prepare for the fall, what that looks like for the organizations and what the implications are dealing with the city, for example, ice users, and what that looks like this winter and this fall. It's heavily going to impact the sport and the organizations, and in turn could have substantial impact to the city. So it was a good conversation and nice to see her. I also was on the call with administration and industry in regards to the regulation of secondary suites. It was a very good conversation. I want to thank administration for providing information that was very useful to industry and for council that were able to attend to have a high level conversation of if there's anything wrong, what it should be. So I really enjoyed that conversation, and I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Clayton. I'll try to be brief. We have a relatively short council meeting today, so but I will update a council on a few meetings that I attended on the city's behalf. I did attend Municipal Affairs Town Hall teleconference Wednesday the 20th. On the 21st, I did have a call with Reed Beaupre and Reed Smith from the MD of Greenview and the County of Grande Prairie, of course, to discuss the Tri-Municipal Industrial Partnership. Reed Smith committed through their administration organizing a meeting for us in the future for the board to be able to get together and discuss the future of that organization. And I also had a phone call with MP Terry Duguid. He's the Parliamentary Secretary for Western Economic Diversification. He was really providing some information about the new money that flowed through the Community Futures organizations. Councillor O'Toole, you'd be happy to know that I was proud to tell him that we have probably the busiest Community Futures, that I was very familiar with it and that they do a great job. So it's great to hear that the federal government is using those organizations to their best with the announcements that you shared earlier. I also shared that more support is needed for municipalities. Councillor Minhas mentioned the forwarding of the gas tax dollars, and obviously that's a decent start, but that is money that was already budgeted for in municipal plans. It is not new money. It's simply an advancing of money. And so it was good to see the Prime Minister and the federal government recognize that municipalities need some support. But obviously that is not the sustainable solution that we're looking for, particularly when cities like Grande Prairie have significant costs that we cannot recoup. Capital dollars can help a local economy, but they do not help the financial position of the municipality with these unrecoverable expenses. So with FCM and AUMA, hopefully we'll be able to continue to push that. I raised this point with the MP, and he related that he was a former Winnipeg City Councillor. He mentioned that in the federal government caucus that there were probably about 20 or 30 former municipal politicians, and I really encouraged him to remind his colleagues that come from a municipal background about that they should be pushing for that and committed to doing so. I also recorded a message for the St. Joe's graduation ceremony. They're doing a virtual ceremony this year, and so I went to St. Joe's, their recording studio, to record my message. I also, in the last couple of days, have made submissions for Grande Prairie Regional College and for Charles Spencer. And so I just would take a little brief second, since we are getting into what would normally be grad season, to say congratulations to all the different grads from all the schools. I know families will be celebrating in different ways. You know, the cap and gown won't be happening in the same way this year, but one thing that is consistent is we're really proud of all these young people who have reached this milestone. And so whatever we can do as a community to help support them and recognize them, we should be doing so. I had an AUMA Board of Directors half-day meeting, and I also had a meeting with the Mayor of Red Deer to discuss some shared lobbying interests. And with that, I think that's all that I have to report. If there was nothing else, then I think we can call our meeting adjourned. Thanks very much, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all. See you again soon, I'm sure.
Bye, everyone.